Hello and welcome to the fourth night of Ravenloft Fright Nights. My name is Locke, my pronouns are they, he, and I will be your wereraven today. And it's about time we talk about me. Or rather, the Ravenloft creatures I named my, online username after, wereravens. There is not enough love and appreciation for wereravens and what they bring to the table within Ravenloft. So I'm here today to enlighten you all on just everything that makes wereravens amazing and what we have to offer. Full disclosure, some of this is canon lore that we're going to be going over, and some of this is lore that I've made up all on my own. I will put distinctions between the two so that you know what is canon to 5e and what's not. Okay, let's start with just what wereravens are, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. Wereravens are lycanthropes that turn into ravens or raven hybrid forms. Just think werewolf, but corvid instead of canine. They're generally described as like a secretive people who have an easy time blending in with society, which hints at either having more control over their transformations than what we normally associate with lycanthropes, or perhaps just a lack of violence when they do lose control of that transformation. Wereravens are often collectors of little trinkets and baubles and can even mimic sounds that they've heard before perfectly, much like their raven counterparts. Despite keeping their lycanthropy a secret, their homes tend to be covered in ravens, or they're, hanging around there. And it's pretty hard to ignore the signs if your literal cottage is basically a rookery. Wereravens also have many of the boons you think of when you think of any sort of lycanthropy. Immunities to bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing damage made with non-magical attacks with non-silvered weapons. Or at least they used to before they updated the stat block in Ben Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. Now those damage immunities have been replaced with HP regeneration instead. So now it's basically if they take non-magical, non-silvered damage, they can regenerate 10 HP each round. Which, hey, that is really cool and helpful. I'm not saying that was a bad change. However, I gotta admit that I use both for mine. And I swear, I promise that's not just out of favoritism, okay? I have lore reasons behind it. I have reasons, I have excuses, not excuses. I have logic behind it, which we'll get into in a little bit. Wereravens try to do good deeds whenever possible, whether it's literally directly fighting monsters, providing shelter to those in need, giving money to charity, or keeping powerful magic items out of the wrong hands. Wereravens are making moves to make the world even a slightly safer and better place for the general populace. And that's the part to truly pay attention to. Wereravens want to do good in a world where that goes against everything anyone has learned within the domains. These lycanthropes have done such a good job at being a light in the dark for centuries that the language used to describe wereravens and ravens alike, at least explicitly stated within Barovia, differs from the way we might refer to them in our everyday reality. The diction literally changed to reflect the good that they do in the world. So usually, a group of ravens is referred to as an unkindness, but in Barovia, they're referred to as a kindness. We tend to use ravens to symbolize a bad omen or portend misfortune. However, they are very much seen as a good omen, or lucky even, to the denizens of Strahd's domain. Wereravens often swear to fight against malevolent forces, but of course that does mean that the malevolent forces are exactly where they are. In Barovia, I've said that they're seen as good regardless. However, since the other domains are so diverse in their beliefs and cultures, I cannot say that wereravens are completely understood for the good-natured beings that they truly are elsewhere throughout Ravenloft. On one side of the coin, keeping in mind that wereravens are generally charitable do-gooders, these humanoid corvids are viewed as mysterious protectors of legend. However, the other side of the coin, being that evil forces tend to follow wereravens in an attempt to eradicate them, does mean that there's an equal amount of misunderstanding and folk tales about eerie, large, raven-like creatures that appear just before tragedy strikes. The way they are viewed and the tales told about them could vary from domain to domain, which is all the more reason to keep their wereraven lycanthropy hidden. But speaking of other domains, wereravens and ravens are two of the few creatures that are able to traverse the mists freely. There are other mist-wandering entities, of course, but they're very rare, so that does make wereravens and ravens special. We get more lore in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft that letters can be taken from domain to domain via carrier raven, although it also does state that most people don't really use that service because they don't trust it. There's a lot of rampant paranoia within Ravenloft, and that letter, the return one, could come from anything, anywhere. And there is nothing more frightening than the unknown. Nothing more dangerous in many cases as well. Regardless of how little this service may actually get used, wereravens can travel and spread stories and news between isolated peoples, ensuring that no communication is lost between the domains, which is yet another way that wereravens do a little good to make the reality of Ravenloft a little bit better. Now you may be thinking to yourselves, okay, this is great, but why isn't their lycanthropy a burden like it is for other types of lycanthropes? What allows them to stay true to themselves and maintain a semblance of hope? What's so special about them that allows them to traverse the mists? And to all of those questions, I say, canonically, there's not really a good answer. At least in 5th edition. I can't speak for previous lore, and I didn't look into it for this video in particular. I asked myself the same questions. I wanted reasons, I wanted lore, and well, I made it. So let's get into some of my homebrew ideas. Around the time that I started asking myself these questions, I also learned about Ezra, Goddess of the Mists. And if your brain just went, Goddess of the Mists, you mean the thing that's ever looming in every domain and isolates everything and pulls everyone in and all of that thing, that very important theme throughout Ravenloft? There must be lots of lore about this goddess. Let me stop you right there. The answer for 5th edition is again, no, not really. There's a singular paragraph about Ezra that's in BR's guide. And as much as I would love to dive into Ezra's lore, both canonically and stuff that I've done, we do not have time for that today, so we're gonna have to save that for another video. This is also about to be weird for me as I treat Ezra as the canonical gendering of her, because in my lore, it just makes more sense being the deity of the mist that they would be more of a genderless god. Listen, I just feel like I'm breaking my own canon, and I don't want to do that, but I'm just talking about Ezra canonically, that's it. So what does the deity of the mist have to do with expanding wereraven lore? Well, the one paragraph we were so graciously given in BR's guide does reveal that there are different sects of her religion with contradictory beliefs about who she is. Some of her followers believe that she is an aloof guardian, whereas other followers believe that she is the soul-stealing embodiment of the mist. Her true nature, however, is completely actually, mysterious. It's never stated fully anywhere. It's vague and vaporous, just like the mist themselves. Now, does this duality, this mixed perceptions, this two sides of the same coin sound familiar to you? As I was devising the why wereravens are the way that they are, and noticed the parallels between them and this deity, I figured why not connect the two? What better explanation for the privileges that wereravens have than that a deity divined it to be that way? Ezra allows her raven-winged chosen to fly through the mist because she created them. They have better control over their transformation because of her blessing. And this is why I say in my homebrew wereravens, they get both the damage immunities and the HP regeneration. Ezra herself is vague and vaporous, hard to understand. Incorporeal in many ways, both because of the mists, but also because she is a goddess. But her wereravens act as solid extensions of her protection, which is still indirect, as most wereravens with their secretive nature would probably keep their origin close to their chests. This also lends a hand, or a talon, to the idea that wereravens feel the need to help others, but can often be misunderstood in their actions. They know that they have a higher calling to fulfill. They were blessed. In fact, I don't even refer to wereraven lycanthropy as a curse, as one would when referring to like werewolf lycanthropy. Instead, it is the gift of wereraven lycanthropy. Something you are born with or granted if you join the ranks of Ezra's Chosen. And viewing their lycanthropy as a divine gift gives more reason why in the description of wereravens, canonically, it states that they very clearly will only use light weapons when fighting and try their best to not peck anyone or bite someone with their beak because they don't want to spread their gift to people who would abuse it. Connecting Wereravens' creation to Ezra fixes a lot of loose ends. It's taking a perceived bad thing and turning it on its head into something good, but leaving a lot of room for some gray areas in between. It's secretive and easy to miss, which leads to a lot of misunderstanding. There's so much space for creativity in the religious aspects and the folklore tales that have been spread throughout the ages. This connection also falls into the fate that every good thing is subjected to within Ravenloft. That every good intention gets twisted. Hence why wereravens can only affect the domains positively so much before something bad follows in their wake. Just to remind everyone of the true dread that persists everywhere. Alright, well I think I've yapped enough about wereravens for one day. Please show these carry-on feeders a bit more love, alright chat? Do it please, even if it's just for me, your favorite local wereraven. That being said, let me do my duty and guide you back on out of the mist, making sure everyone moves on safely. So yes, thank you all for watching and joining me on this 4th night of Ravenloft Fright. If you've been enjoying this series and you don't want to miss the rest of it, please hit that subscribe button as well as hit the like button while you're down there. And I will see you all next time.